Okay, we're going to look at this last set of problems, so it's going to be all different types. Number 38 says, a woman who's a carrier for color blindness and has 5 fingers marries a colorblind male with 6 fingers. 5-fingeredness is actually recessive, and so is color blindness. So real quick, we'll make a key. A big C is normal. Little c is colorblind, and that's an X-linked trait. 5-fingeredness is actually the recessive, so big F would be 6 fingers. Little f would be 5 fingers. All right, so a woman who's a carrier for color blindness. A woman who's a carrier for color blindness, that means she carries the allele for color blindness, but she isn't colorblind because she has a capital C. She has 5 fingers. The only way you can have 5 fingers is to be homozygous recessive. And it says that she marries a colorblind male with 6 fingers. So a colorblind male, that means on his X chromosome, he has the little c for colorblind. And he has 6 fingers, meaning he at least has a capital H. His mother, however, had 5 fingers. So his mother had to contribute a little f. So there's the genotype of these 2 parents. What percent of the kids would you expect to be colorblind and 5 fingers? So I want to know the chances of having that trait in combination. So first, let's look at the color blindness trait. And I want to know the percent of the kids. So what I'm going to do for color blindness, because it's a little tricky when you have an X-linked trait, is I'm going to make a Punnett square for color blindness. The female is a big C and a little c. I'm just not putting the X's in the boxes because it's really busy. The male has a little c and then a y. And when I put everything together, I can see that there's a half chance that they'll have a kid who's colorblind. So colorblind, there's a half of a chance. And then for 5-fingeredness, you've got little f, and big F, little f. Whenever you have a heterozygous and a homozygous recessive, you're going to get half with the dominant trait, half with the recessive trait. 5-fingeredness is the recessive trait, so that's 1/2. If you multiply those together, you're going to get 1/4. So the answer to that first one is 1/4 or 25%. For number 39, what percent of the kids would have normal vision and 5 fingers? So 5 fingers is again half. Since colorblind is half, that means normal vision is half. So you're going to actually get the same answer, 25% or 1/4, because 1/2 are going to be normal, 1/2 are going to have 5 fingers, half times half is 4, or 1/4. All right, the next problem. Number 40. Defective dentine is dominant and sex-linked. So defective is now the dominant. That means little d is normal. And this is also an X-linked trait. So I like to put X up there just to remind me. A woman with normal teeth. So a woman who is normal. That means that the only way you can be normal is to have 2 little d's. Marries a man with bad teeth. So the man on his X chromosome is going to have the defective gene, so he's going to have a capital D. Could they have a son with bad teeth? So if we do a Punnett square, and I do, again, like to do Punnett squares for sex-linked traits because they're a little tricky. There's my female, there's my male.
Anytime in your Punnett square, if you do this shortcut, if you've got 2 alleles in there, that means it's female because she's got 2 X's. If you have a Y in there, that's male. So the question is, could they have a son with bad teeth? So these are the 2 possibilities for sons, and they both have the normal allele. So the answer to that one is no. Then number 41 is asking, what about a daughter? So if we look up here, both of the daughters have the defective gene. So for 41, the answer is yes. All right, this next one. So Labrador retrievers come in 3 colors. This is an example of epistasis. Epistasis is where you have a gene that gives you a trait, but it only gives you that trait in the presence of another gene. So in this instance, coat color is only around as long as the E gene is expressed. If the E gene is not expressed because they have little e, then there is no color and the fur ends up yellow. So that's how you get your different colored Labradors. So they come in 3 colors, black, brown, and yellow. The big B causes black. So this is number 42. If big B is black, it has to be dominant over something, and that is the brown, because we get this chocolate brown. So a little b would be brown fur. And then you've got this E gene that as long as it's present, you get color deposited in the fur. If you have the recessive trait, in other words, 2 little alleles, 2 recessive alleles, you end up with no color or a yellow lab. Okay? So the question is, can 2 black labs have, oh, no, I'm sorry, I skipped a question. Let's see. What is the genotype for a brown lab? So in order to be brown, you have to have the recessive allele, 2 of them. So in order to be brown, a dog would have to be little b, because if he has the big B, he'll be black. And then to express color, he has to have at least 1 E allele. The other allele could be a little e or a big E. So that means that in order to be brown, he can be little b, big E, or little b, big E, he can be whatever here. That could be an E or a big E. And that dog will be brown. Number 43, can 2 black labs have a yellow offspring? So black, he has to have big B, and he has to have the gene to express color, so he has to at least be that. Can this dog have yellow offspring? In order to be yellow, all you need is little e. It doesn't matter what the B's are. So if this dog was heterozygous for expressing color, then he could have, or he could be a carrier, and he could pass that little E down. And then whatever dog he is matched with could also pass down a little E. So yes, a black lab can have yellow offspring. Number 44 is saying, oh, this was 2, I'm sorry, can 2 black labs? Yeah, so if we did the same thing here, yeah, as long as they get 2 little E's, you can have that yellow lab. Can 2 yellow labs have brown offspring? All right, so in order to be yellow, you have to have no fur color expression, and that's little e. So in order to be yellow, you have to be little e. In order to be colored, you have to have 1 big E. This dog, no matter what, couldn't contribute a big E. And if we're trying to cross little e with little e, I'm never going to get the big E needed to express either brown or black. So it doesn't even matter what his fur color alleles are, he can't be brown or black. And then number 45, says, can two brown labs have a black offspring? Well, in order to be brown, it's little b, and we're going to cross that with another brown lab. The E's here don't matter as long as he's got at least one big E so that we get the brown fur. But there's no way we can get a big B out of that. And big B is necessary for black. So no, you can't have two brown labs have a black lab. All right, and then the last one was a little bit tricky. So let me get some paper. In leghorn chickens, feathers are present due to a dominant gene C. So in order to even have feathers, you have to have this dominant gene here, or colored feathers. White is due to the recessive. Then the presence of the dominant gene P, if you have that, then this prevents color and flowers entirely, giving you a white chicken. So you get no color if P is present, and that too will give you a white chicken. In order to have color, you have to have two little p's. All right, a colored rooster. So if he's colored, we know that he has the big C. We don't know what this other allele is. It could be big C, it could be little c. But since he is colored, he's little p, little p. Okay, that's the only way he can express color. Because if he had a big P, then it doesn't matter. The color wouldn't be expressed. He is mated with a white hen. So a white hen could be all kinds of stuff. So we really need to look at the offspring to see what her genotype is, because she could be white due to having a homozygous recessive for color, or she could be white because she is carrying a big P. So what we need to do is look at the offspring. And according to this colored rooster and this white hen so far have 400 chicks, and all 400 are colored. Okay? So if all the chicks are colored, that means that the P's have to be little p, little p. Okay? Because if you had a big P in there anywhere, that would take away the color. And all 400, that's a lot of chicks. All of them have color, so you can assume that this is homozygous recessive for both of them. That's the only way you're going to get 400 that are all the same. All right, then another thing that we need to look at is whether or not, since we're going to be expressing color here, and we know that this female chicken is white, the only way that you can get a white chicken who has the colored gene is to be homozygous recessive. So we know that female is homozygous recessive. Now, the next thing that we need to figure out is what are the genotypes of the parent and the offspring. So we need to figure out what goes here. If all 400 are colored, if I put a little c here, when you have big C, little c crossed with a homozygous recessive, you would get half colored and half white. Because some of them would end up little c, little p, just like the mother. So that can't be little c, because we have 400 chicks and all of them have color. That means that this is not a little c, but it's a big C. So the parents have to be big C, little p, crossed with little c, little p, little p. And then all of the chicks, all 400 of them, this parent contributed a big C, this parent contributed a little c, and then little p, little p. And that is it for the problems.